to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I am so excited to bring Rachel Moriarty back to the show. She was one of the earliest supporters of the podcast, and she first appeared on the show all the way back in episode number 55. It was titled, Act as If the World is Watching. Rachel talked about how to show up, how to market, and how to brand yourself in your business. Rachel has this amazing ability to lead with who she is and what makes her special. Today, she's going to share some of her tips on visibility, on staying true to yourself, and in showing up in a way that feels good for you and results in good things for your business. Before we hear what Rachel has to say, as you listen, keep in mind, Rachel is one of the fantastic Lu University instructors. That's right. She teaches visibility for creatives. In the last 5 years, I've seen few and far between the designers who have gone from brand new to the kind of success that Rachel has created. This is why I snapped her up and asked her to teach it to the rest of us. Head over to LuAnnUniversity.com to check out Rachel's class, Visibility for Creatives, and decide if you are ready to up your visibility game. Registration, early bird registration, opens October 1st, 2021, and the classes start the week of October 25th, 2021. All right, let's get talking with Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Thanks so much for joining me again on A Well-Designed Business.
Hi, Lou. Thanks for having me.
Rach. Where do I start with you, Rach? I mean, seriously. The first place I have to start is with my gratitude for you. I really, really do. I mean, I have mentioned several times over the course of many of episodes where it's appropriate that I always recall there was an initial group of half a dozen or a dozen designers that in the first 5 or 6 months of the podcast were cheerleaders, would comment on the Instagram post or sent an email and just consistently when the show would come out, say something about it. And you were one of those people. And I remember it. And I've always remembered it. I've always appreciated it. And what's interesting is I eventually asked you to be on the show. You were on the show, episode number 55. And it was so funny because I looked back, we called that show Act as If the World is Watching. And I remember, what I don't remember is did I have the aha moment during the episode or off air? But what I remember is here I'm interacting with you through social media for several months. We decide to make the podcast interview. And then I find out that it's a side hustle and a new business. And I was like, whoa, lady, you do not present to the world like you're a brand new business. And of course, I've since learned, what a tremendous background you have in photo styling, in editorial, in finance, and all of the things that we always talk about our Erica Ward transferable skills, right? That informed, that you got your business up and running and so professionally, but still it's amazing. And Rach, you said, act as if 1,000 people are watching you. And now 10 times that amount of people are watching you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, basically I became obsessed with you. I mean, there are a lot of people that are obsessed with you, I mean, it's that's what we want. That's
Yes.
what we're out here trying to create, are these obsessive fans.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
glad to be here.
you would talk about obsessive fans. Right now, we're going to reveal, right? Anybody that's been to any event that I've done now, if they've come recently, oh my goodness, recently, let's go back to pre-COVID, right? But,
Yeah.
thankfully, yes, the rooms are full. But I
Mhm.
remember the very first event I ever did. Two people showed up, you and Marietta,
Marietta
right?
McCurdy. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And both of you drove hours to get there, right?
Hours. Yeah. And the thing was, though, Lou, that was the biggest gift to me, because actually it showed me how to show up, because in person is kind of like my weak spot,
Mm.
and I just remember, like, because I was there at that first event, we have stayed connected.
Yes.
Not only you, Marietta McCurdy and I have been roommates. The Courtney, the PR person, I've
Yes.
stayed connected with. I am on panels with her clients. So, and I think even the Cooper Pacific Kitchen got
Yes.
business. I mean, it if you looked at it, it was almost like, oh my gosh, but none of us had that perspective on it. I
No.
was happy to get so much time with you.
Well, and you know what? You're right, because each one of us benefited from it, even though we were sitting there with the four of what one, two,
It was
three,
five, let's
four,
say
five,
five people. It
five
was
plus the
and
Vin Man,
Vin,
six
yeah.
people, right?
It
And
was a perfect, six people is
yeah,
perfect. It's awesome.
it was. And I have also stayed connected to both Marietta and to Courtney and to the Cooper Pacific Kitchens
Yep.
company.
Yep.
And it just ended up interviewing him on the show, the whole
Yep.
thing. But the thing was, it was funny because I love to hear that you look back at that and you have traced the value from it, because Rach, you've gone on to do your own live events and have had your own podcast, and you do your Facebook lives. As the person, you're like, oh my goodness, are these two people here going to be upset that they're the only two people here? like you're like,
Right?
oh no.
No, I would be happy. I, as an introvert, I'm like, the deeper we can go into conversation,
Yeah.
I'm all good. The
Yeah.
less small talk I have to do.
This is true. It's true. And it really was. It was a beautiful afternoon, and it was fun. And so the thing is, from then, and you're right, it did enable us to really talk and meet and
Go
become
deep,
friends,
yeah.
right? And what's so
Yeah.
funny is, now you take this, how the things, the little, like, I always say the synchronicities. So Marietta obviously was with us for that, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
then I come walking into 6, 7 months later, the first time I'm going to do a speaking engagement, and it's at the Design Influencers Conference. And I
Yep.
walk in, and in the lobby there is Marietta. And it's like, oh, I know you, you know me. And we're like, hello, hello, hello. And what's crazy, Rach, is now you're going to be the MC for the upcoming Design Influencers Conference. Like, it's nuts.
That's insane. The other thing was, I was actually Marietta's roommate at that conference.
I didn't know
So
that.
it just it's so beautiful,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
It
yeah,
really is.
yeah. And so now, we're let's go to where we are now. We're at the place now where you have an amazing, thriving business. You have done brand ambassadorships and licensing deals. You are now, as I just mentioned, going to be the MC for the upcoming Design Influencers Conference in 2022. You're teaching at LuAnn University, visibility for creatives. So where do you want to go with me, Rach? Do you want to pick it apart and say, how did you create it? Do you want to talk about the results of doing it? You want to, I know there's always that twist where you are an introvert and you still have created in 5 years this amazing visibility for yourself.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we can go wherever you want to go. There's a lot of places to go.
So, all right. And you know what? Okay, so then here's what I'm going to say. I know that also revealed in a show, because I ended up a year later doing a solo show on you because I was so impressed by you. And I talked about how you did that Facebook 100, 30-day challenge. It turned into 100 and turned into a year. And I'm going to put the episode numbers for these in the show notes so you can really get Rachel's backstory, right? But that was like the launch, like just committing as an introvert. I am going to go live every day for 30 days. And then the snowball. So what has been the challenge? Has the challenge been always showing up like that, or was the challenge when opportunities came to navigate them? Like, was it the challenge in managing your design firm while you were managing visibility opportunities? Like, what do you think?
I think it's managing your mind. I think that's it. I hate to say it, but that's really it.
Wow. Okay.
It's kind of as simple as that. And yeah.
So when you say managing your mind, you're talking about the just get over yourself and get visible? Or are you talking about, okay, so tell me
I'm talking about enoughness, self-worth. This is going deep, but are we recording right now?
Yeah. Come on, lady. It's just me and you, Rach. It's just me and you talking.
I know. For me, it's I do all these different modalities because look, we've all worked in corporate. You own a company, right? Mm-hmm. I've worked in corporate. There's this Debbie Downer that I remember. She sticks out. So her name was Debbie, which was hilarious. And, she would come in with bad energetics, horrible energy, terrible attitude. And she was in this job forever, and it's so different when you create a business and you create a brand and you give it an entity number and it becomes, you call it your baby, and you're creating this thing, and then you've got to go out and market it. And you have to really work on your self-worth and your energetics, because your magnet, just like we were talking about how I became obsessed with you. You put out yourself very authentically, and I just became obsessed with you. And there are men, you've heard it, I'm sure, time and time again. There are tons of people who are obsessed with you. So for me, it was managing my mind, and that I was going to show up, and that I was going to act as if, and I was going to get paid for that, because I'm not working for a corporation. I can't be out there and put bad energetics out, because nobody's going to hire me. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's just been years and layers and different modalities of working on my mindset.
So what I love is what I'm hearing in there is that there's almost this two sides of a conversation in your mind. It's like in your mind, and I am relating to it, right? So in our mind, we are starting a business for a very specific desire to craft a lifestyle and to deliver a service to somebody that we feel is very important. And we visualize how it should be. It's like you said, when you have a baby, you look at that little baby and you're like, you're going to be amazing. You're going to play softball and you're going to do this and you're going to be a banker or whatever.
Potential.
Right. It's like all the things you lay on this little person, right? What I love is then the kids don't do any of the things you want them to do.
I remember that's also it. But also when you think about a kid, you create it, but also it creates you as a mom. Think about, and that's what I think about my business. I created it, but really it created me.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So in that little twist there's an emotional desire to start a business, to create this thing that you visualize. And then there's an intellectual observation that, now I've done this. I've got an EIN number. I've got a name. I've got a website. And to your point, you said, and now I have to tell people about it. And then what I heard in you is, and I think if we go back to that first episode, Act As If, it's almost what you're saying is my desire for the outcome was so great that I had to ignore the voice that was like, you can't shout this from the rooftops. You must shout it from the rooftops or it won't work.
I had a specific voice and a specific saying in my head. Who is going to hire a banker to decorate their home? That's who I had to get past.
You had to leave that voice behind. And
yes.
And in order to leave that voice behind, you then lead into, so this is the other thing that you're really, really good at. You're really good at branding who you are.
Yes.
And so are you going to tell us, Rachel, that that is also a layer of act as if when you created this brand and this persona between the Facebook Lives and the website presentation, that sometimes you would look at that and go, I'm not sure that this banker girl can really do this, but it sure looks like she can when I look at this?
What I noticed was that I had a natural way of branding. Branding was like almost as easy as going into a room and seeing it as something else. Branding was sort of that gift, but I was 15 years in advertising and working in fashion and print catalog. And as a creative services, I kind of shelved all these different things. I shelved that. I shelved banking. I couldn't see how everything could come together. And now I look at it, Lou, like if you were to hire me to style a space in your house, I would prep you and say, okay, I'm going to come and I want you to set up a staging area. And I want you to pull out any of your collections. I want you to pull out your books, pull out your candles, pull out, any of your plants. And we're going to keep everything the same, but I'm going to come in and I'm going to restyle everything. And by the end, I promise you, you would not even believe your own house that I haven't brought a single thing in. You'd be like, what? How does this look like a model home? I've done it before. That was the cornerstone of my business, using what you have to decorate your own home. And that's kind of what branding is. It's like I pulled out, at first I was trying to hide that I had a financial services background. Now it's like, it's part of my selling. I mean, I'm so good at my numbers. I'm like, check my cells. I can, check my spreadsheets any day. So I'm like, use that as a tool. I use my fashion background as a tool. I use advertising and photo styling and all of that. I created a business. There was nothing to like fix, like, oh, you can't, there wasn't like, oh, you were a banker, let's just shelf that and fix that and we're going to hide that. There was nothing. It was like bringing it all and curating it and embodying this version of me is how I kind of see it.
I love this whole revelation that you're sharing with us, because the thing is, it reminds me of, we've had 1,000 conversations about our Fred Burns only. And
yes.
It reminds me of how many times in real life somebody has said to me, well, I don't know what my Fred Burns only is. And you are describing exactly how each of us has to look. And I love the metaphor of, all the things in the house are the same. We're just going to craft them and move them around and make a better presentation out of them. And so it is looking inside. Look inside at all of the skills and the gifts and the things that you have, whether at that moment you think banking in finance is a negative, it's still something that's in your arsenal. And then spinning it and really figuring out how all of these are going to create the person that you bring to your business, right?
Yep.
Love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. And that makes you unduplicatable.
That's it. That becomes your Fred Burns only. You're the only designer who.
Exactly. Truly, and I have beautiful community of other interior designers here in San Diego. I mean, Ellis Lopez and Susan Winterstein,
yep.
And everybody has their own style. We're not competition. We help Susan with her fundraising,
yep.
and where, if somebody a handyman falls out. Well, there's no competition because everybody knows exactly who they are and stand in that space so strongly.
Well, and so when we think about this for somebody listening that's like getting a little excited and thinking, what are all my things? So, can you recall, was there an exercise, a moment where you were like, okay, let me just figure out all the things I am? Or was it more organic, Rachel, where you're like, wow, you know what? My fashion thing is who I am, and people are responding to that. I mean, that is, that's one of the most noticeable things about you is, you're glamorous. I mean, for crying out loud, you're glamorous. If I ever wore the clothes that you wore, people would look at me like, are you out of your tree? But when you do it,
why does LuAnn look like Mrs. Roper right now?
Right. But when you do it, it's just like, oh my God, that's stunning. You know what I mean? And so if somebody's like starting to get excited and thinking, okay, I have a little thing throwing around in my head that might be my onlys. Do you have advice, Rach, on how they pick it apart and start to lean into it or discover it for themselves?
Well, the first thing is going to be come and do visibility for creatives. I mean, that is that is not even a shameless plug. But you have to thread it together. There's a book I can recommend called Blue Ocean Strategy, and basically the premise of that book, I don't know if maybe you've interviewed the authors or whatever, but it's kind of like the sharks are in there and everybody's doing the same thing, and like let's say we're all designers in an ocean and we're kind of churning up the water, and it's kind of red because we're all like, we think we're competition and we're all fighting for the same clients and all of that. But over there is the blue ocean. And if you go swim and wade way over there and, you have nothing, you're just all by yourself in a sea, all by yourself. And that's basically what we're trying to create. That's why you go back and you basically pull all of those things out, just like, and we are talking to designers and stylists and stagers, so just do it exactly like I said, like you would be restyling a room, and kind of pull those things out and thread them. There is a through line in there, and that's your brand story.
It's so good, and it's funny because I know that we've had conversations with designers over the years that have shied away from sharing their background and thinking that a consumer is going to be like, oh, you haven't been in interior design for 20 years. I can't hire you, right? Like I'm going to go hire somebody else. You're only 2 years in or 1 year in or whatever it is, regardless of your age, right? And I know as a consumer, I want a designer, like for me, who is not a numbers lady, right? I would want a designer who tells me out front, I'm a numbers person. I'm going to have spreadsheets. I'm going to have this thing locked down. You ask me a question, I'm going to have an answer. I don't need two of us on the project that can't keep the numbers straight. You know what I'm saying?
Right? Exactly.
And so that's like, it's just an example of there's something in you for somebody else. You don't have to be for everybody, is your blue ocean strategy example, right?
Absolutely. In fact, it's so funny because the more I've embodied this brand and the more I've embodied the spirit of my projects through my photography, the better my clients are getting, the more fun I'm having. And I've built a multidisciplinary business because that was the other thing, Lou. I've been in these Facebook groups forever, and there was nobody who had a business that I wanted. Nobody had a business model that I was like, yeah, I want to be like her. And that was kind of hard for me too, because there was nobody to help expand what my business could be. So I did have to kind of pull, it took me a while to embrace Instagram, but as I started embracing it, that's when the brand partnerships started coming. That's when all of the brand collaborations, they start telling you why they're attracted to you. That's how I got my licensing deal. And so, so now I was able to get enough of these little nuggets from external, feedback, I guess I would use, where I was able to then kind of look out again and say, okay, if brands are coming to me for this, and designers are coming to me for this. And I want, I'm getting better and better clients and better projects. Now, what do I want this business to look like? So that's kind of where I'm at now.
So there's a question that I have that is bizarre because it's the same thing I'm seeing as a positive and could have been perceived by a lesser confident person as a potential negative. So here's where I'm going. For example, your brand and your brand identity is very much built on color and fashion. And, it's not built on like all the cabinets are white and all the rugs are gray and all the things are whatever, right? It's literally, you could, on one hand, if somebody was contemplating this, you could see that somebody could look and say, that's going to really limit you too much. Like, don't do that. Like, that's just too over the top. And, people are going to think it's whatever. On the same token, it is the thing that has enabled you to cultivate the ideal clients that you really enjoy working with because they respond to it and they appreciate it, right? So you see what I'm saying, okay? But my question is, now that we've seen it work for you effectively, being exactly who you are, as bold as you are and colorful and as fashion forward and all the things, I could see somebody else, if they're going and they're looking at you and looking at your website, and if it's the one person listening that doesn't know who you are, right? Being like, oh, well, that's not me. I don't have that. I don't have that ability, that persona. So how am I going to differentiate myself? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. You're talking other designers?
Yeah.
Right?
So like when you work with other designers, like you had your own podcast, you have the visibility group, you're doing the LuAnn University class. So when you work with other designers, or they just grab you at an event and say, if I'm not stunning and, fashion forward and all the things and bold in my personal aesthetic and my design like you are, how do I differentiate myself? Do you have ideas?
Oh my gosh. Well, remember when you had your event and I said, don't apologize for being you. Don't apologize. Don't be apologetic about not liking color. If you don't like color, you don't like color.
Right.
I use it as a filtering tool. So it's interesting, Lou, because how you said, I'm known for color. The biggest bulk of my projects here in San Diego is historic home restorations. This is my passion. This is what I love. I feel like this is my purpose work, is getting this designation plaque on some of these homes. Do you know what that means? That means 25 gallons at least of white paint, interior, exterior.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but do you see me posting a lot of that on my feed, in my portfolio? I do have it on my portfolio, but I come in and I wear the colorful caftan.
Okay.
So it's an interesting way that I approach that, but I still come up as the number one historic home remodeler in San Diego. So I use it, though. I use color as a filter. I use it because it repels certain people, and I use it to magnetize others. And so okay, this is another interesting thing. Gosh, I'm all over the place. There's so much, but this could be like 5 hours. So in the Facebook groups, I feel like when I just, kind of read and observe, I feel like designers do not give their clients enough credit.
I agree.
My clients could probably do their homes and get it to 90%. I am not even joking. My clients have such a strong aesthetic. They are collectors. They actually introduce me to places they've traveled to, hotels they stay in. They're always giving me this inspiration. I'm like so blown away that to be working with some of my clients. People have to think at the luxury level, they can literally work with anybody they want. They can afford anybody. And I don't think we give our clients enough credit. And so I come at it. Where were we talking about? My Lord.
You're so funny. No. We're talking about, what I think what you started to say in there is I mistakenly thought that leading with all of the color, which is true to you, always attracts projects that are colorful. And what you're saying is, no. You can do both. And also, clients know and understand that also.
So you're right. So even in the historical, as much as I love doing historical homes, there is a client for me in that niche.
Yes.
So there's a niche within a niche because I'm not grandma's attic.
Yes.
So I use color and I use colorfully coastal because I want to work on beach houses. And
branding.
I want your $3 million beach house. Don't get that twisted. So, I use colorfully coastal, my signature style. You're going to see that throughout my website. And I also use a term out of the box design every time. So even in a historical home, 1928 niche, I need that client that still wants the interior of it to be out of the box. Or they want an out of the box experience.
Right. So these are two huge little mega bombs here that you just dropped on us, okay? Colorfully coastal. You see, I heard it there, and I want to make sure we stop and point it out. You are putting into the universe, specifically your website, your marketing, and your social media, this phrase colorfully coastal, so that SEO, right? And B, when somebody comes to your website, if they have a home, a $3 million home on the coast, they automatically think, well, you must be better at it because you actually advertise that you do colorfully coastal. So I love this mechanism right here. So anybody
and don't call me if you just want texture. That's also what I'm saying.
Right. Don't beige and white and gray, all layered and layered and layered.
That's not me. I will totally refer you. I have beautiful people who do that I'm just not comfortable in it.
Right.
I can't, it's not that I don't like it. I think it's beautiful. I appreciate it. I just don't know how to design like that.
Right. And even if you did, it's not your desire to. So, and that's great. Leave it to all the designers in San Diego that it's their designer to do, and they do it really well. Right.
Yes.
And so I love that. And then also the out of the box design every time. Again, you're literally in a phrase calling out, and you're hitting like an emotional ping on somebody is what I'm feeling like, right? So if you're, look, if you want to play by the rules, don't call Rachel. Like Rachel's going to push you around a little, and she's going to make you think. Yeah. Need not apply.
And that was, that actually came, Lou, out of a series of discovery calls. So I would get all of these calls, and I could tell that they had been through my website, been through all of my projects, and they were the ones that would say, I've been looking at designers in San Diego, and I'm looking for out of the box, and you're out of the box. They never said, I love your color. They never said, I love this, or I love that, or recreate this or that. They just knew I didn't think like everybody else.
See, that's another great tip right there, Rach, is that we listen to what our customers say about us, and then figure it out, internalize it, and then figure out a way to say it out loud back to all the other customers so they can hear it.
Yeah. And that was when I knew if I was on the phone for 1.5 seconds with them and they were like, use the word out of the box, I would close that sale so fast because I knew that that was my client. That was my client. So then I was like, oh my gosh, so this is my avatar, this out of the box, the person that wants the out of the box design.
I love it. And so the lessons in there are to, when you do your own self-discovery and you think about, like you said, when you look around your own living room, and which is your own person and your own life experiences, and you really gather them all in front of you and say objectively, these are the things that make me me. right? Whatever
Yeah.
they are. I'm a mother.
Yeah.
I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm a blah, blah, blah. Like literally, I feel like the exercise is write it all down as much as comes to your mind, right? I remember when
Yeah.
I came up with the podcast, one of the things that I did, because we all know I was on a podcast and I hung up the line. I was
Yes.
like, oh, sweet Jesus, I need me one of those. This is my spot. Okay. But then I had to figure out what I was going to podcast about.
Yeah.
And I remember doing this exercise of all, like literally somebody encouraged me. It was on another podcast that I was listening to. And it was exactly this. Just write down all the things that you are good at and all the things that you love. Like
Yes.
literally, you know what I mean? And it was like, and the encouragement was to do the list over 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And the funny thing is I remember, and I want you guys to think about it, and doing this same exercise for yourself to discover your own brand, your own only, is it was everything. Like if you're good at running, write that down. Like I remember it was like, well, I'm a runner, you know, and I'm good
Yeah.
at that. And I swim. I'm a swimmer. I'm good at that. Then it was like, well, I'm good at sales. And you just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I was like, I'm good at questions. You know, I'm good at, you know, disseminating information. And then all of a sudden, you know, it all starts to be like, there's something happening here. You know,
Yeah.
it's like when you put somebody's room together, it's like, see that? That looks amazing, you know, using the same
Yep.
thing. So, I mean, that's what we have to do. It's like, if we really understand and discover who we are, it makes it so much easier for us to build this business that reflects our values and how we want to live every day and who we want to serve, right?
Yep. And then you reflect that out and people see themselves in that.
Right. Right. So exciting. So tell us, were there challenges, like, you know, things along this 5.5-year journey now, Rach, where, you know, you've really felt like, whoa, that set me back on my butt. Like that just pushed me back and that was a sting. Was there anything like that happened along the way? Or was it more just, you know, always gradually? I almost feel like it's been like pulling back an onion, like literally always just discovering more and more. But was there a moment or a time or an event where you're just like, that's a hard lesson?
Honestly, not. I haven't had anything like that. I think the lesson has been, you know, the creation of me being the behind the scenes girl, literally behind the camera, the photo stylist, the producer, the, you know, to the visibility. It's been like, I mean, I just is so funny. I just like pictured this writhing self, you know, it's been this like wrestling match with myself. I don't even, it was the only visual that came into my head. I mean, it's like arm wrestling myself to you know, get out there in this way. And but the thing is, even if you listen to episode 55 or whichever it was, I could even tell listening to that version of Rachel that I knew there was something in me that knew there was something big if I just kept going. That was the gift of listening back to that, because the words were coming out. I had no way of knowing what the trajectory was, but there was something pulling me, and there was a knowing somewhere that you're on the right path. Like, this is it. Keep going.
Well, and like we said, we called that episode Act as If the World is Watching. Like you were always preparing yourself to be the big business that you envisioned you would be. And you were always presenting yourself, more importantly. I mean, I remember the shock of like, wait, you're like, wait, you just started this? You know? Well, and because you did, you always presented. And it's so funny because, you know, in my own business, you know, I can't tell you a number of times that I'm asking for the opinion of, maybe it be Nicole Heimer on something we're building up on for the website, or maybe it's Diana or whoever it might be. And I'll be like, you know, ask a question, get an opinion. What do you think? And when the answer comes, sometimes I'm like, okay, is that the same answer if we're 5 years from now? Is that the same answer, or is that the answer for
Ah,
this level? And then they just look at me and I'm like, okay, so now what's the answer if we're building this for 5 years from now? And sometimes I can't do it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, that's crazy pants. We got to back this up and we'll do that when we get there. But anytime I can build something that we can make a decision on something, will this carry us for the next 5 years? Is this getting to the 5 year vision that I have for this? Then let's just go there now. Let's just do this now. Right.
yeah, yeah.
And I feel like that's what you did as well.
Yes, it's really embodying. For me, it's the embodiment of what I want everything to be. I
Mm-hmm.
it was figuring out that, what, it doesn't exist. What you want doesn't exist.
Mm.
You're just going to have to create it and be the model for someone else.
Yes, and you have been, right? And so on that journey, there's a lot of what I call listening to our inside voice, right? It's listening to
Mm-hmm.
our gut and our intuition and just saying. So take me to that visual there of wrestling with yourself. Tell us a little bit more about what is that you do. You still wrestle with yourself on things, Rachel? Are there
Oh, yes.
Okay, so tell us, because I think in that somebody can picture themselves and maybe get an aha on how to have the strength and courage to just push through it.
Well, um, I think you have to do coaching. I mean, that is the one thing that you have to do. You have to, for me, it's been, like I said, different modalities. So I know you work with like Desi Creswell, and she does the life coach school. So through the life coach school, they have a program called Self-Coaching Scholars. And that you learn the thought model, and you have weekly coaching lessons. There's also something called RTT, which is Marissa Peer. It's really about enough-ness. There's also, I do something, people are going to think, oh my gosh, what does she work? I also do another thing called To Be Magnetic, which is talking about energetics and epigenetics. And I do a lot of thought work a week. I would say I probably put in 10 hours a week on
Wow.
thought work.
Wow.
I do. I
That's
do.
that's you know what? I love that you value yourself and your decision to have a business so highly that 5.5 years later, 6 years later, you are still consciously investing the time and money to always expand your thoughts and your mind on what it means to be in business. That's
Hmm.
incredible. Good for you, Rachel.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really is. I mean, and it's, whether it's business coaching, for me, it's more life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, what I need at the moment, like if I need something in business, then I'll get that business thing. But yeah, I feel like I can't ever, and I know you were somebody too, that I know you have like a productivity coach,
Oh
and
yeah.
look at the level you are and the kind of business that you have, and the people in your masterminds. I mean, it never stops. You have
No.
to have that. You
I
have to have
I
it.
believe it. I there's it, to me, like there's no the I there's it's not even, it's non-negotiable for me to
Yeah.
have people in my life, that know more than I know. It's as simple as
Yeah.
that, because how am I going to know more if I'm not, the five people you surround yourself with, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes you pay for those people to surround you.
Yeah.
That's as
Yeah.
simple as that,
And I remember the first time we talked about visibility for creatives, and I was talking about it. The thing is, visibility, the strategies, you can Google the strategies,
Mm-hmm,
right? I mean, the
mm-hmm.
strategies are the strategies. They're not, they shift from platform to platform. But it was like what I think I mentioned to you. I'm like, you have a productivity coach. You probably thought you were going to go in and talk about your calendar. You
Right.
know what I mean? But at the end, it's your thought and your relationship to the calendar, or your relationship
Oh
with
God, you're
time.
so right.
You
You're
know what
so
I
right.
mean?
You're so right. I mean, I've been working with Amber de la Garza going on 2 years, and we've never once opened my calendar, but we talk on the
Right.
regular about my opinion of the appointments I set and my opinion about the free time that I do or don't allow into my life, and
Yeah.
why
And
do I not do it
exactly.
this way, and
Your
why do I.
relationship with time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yes.
that's what, visibility for creatives is. Yes, we're going to talk about strategies for sure. But it's so, just like we talked about, I spend about 10 hours on myself, and a lot of it is hypnosis, guided meditations, and a lot of it's that. So
Mm.
um you know so that's what visibility creatives is. It's strategy, but it's also, we're going to talk about energetics, magnetism, thought work. It's layers and layers.
Mm. Mm.
And yeah, so
So good. And I'm curious, your children, I've watched them grow up and, from afar through Instagram and through
mhm.
Facebook, right? Um, but I do know that India in particular has, for a long time been your number one photographer there. Like, I know you have
Yep,
a professional photographer too, but,
yep.
what do you have any observations on lessons that they've learned watching you grow and develop this business, or have they shared any observations or comments to you? I mean, you just seem like you're such a great example to your two children on how to create something that is just so meaningful and authentic and fulfills you and also supports you financially. You know?
Well, it's interesting because my daughter's 11, so she just thinks I'm just weird. She's so over taking pictures of me. She's just over it. And so, like, that's kind of where I'm at with India. Like, thank God I can hire a photographer now, because I just have to save for therapy at this point. But the interesting thing with my son is he is like a totally different. He's into academics and academia, and he is aeronautical, studying to be an aeronautical engineer.
Whoa.
And so he's like he's self-proclaimed nerd, and just super smart, super analytical. And the interesting part is the people that he's connected with are obsessed with me and my Instagram stories. And they're just like, "How is your mom so cool?" And he's just like, that's solid. She is pretty cool." I think the lessons will come down the road when they start applying some of that into their real life. But it's funny at this point.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. They're little young yet to have the hindsight on it, I guess, and to really
Yeah.
look at you objectively. But I know that there's going to be a moment, and whether it's 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, because it is what you have built, Rachel, really is well to be admired. It really is. It's just to think about. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I am so genuinely impressed that it's so you. That's the thing. Like, we can create a big business. I've interviewed 700 people that have created businesses, okay? But there's just this extra thing about what you've done that doesn't veer 1 second from who you truly are. That is just so cool and fun. And I don't feel like there's any part of how you show up in anything that's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. That's a little too whatever, or not enough this. It's like, this is how I am. This is how I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah.
thank you. It's fun. I feel like that is the one thing that, talk about values. One of my values is fun and freedom and fun. And honestly, the more fun I have, the better my clients get. And that is the interesting part. The more I peel the onion, the more me I become, the better things get. And that is just so rewarding. And it's also, inspiring in a way. It's good. It's like, oh my gosh, how did I not know this? Why didn't I know this like 30 years ago?
Well,
I wonder
that's a
what
great
life would have
question.
been like.
So yeah. Well, but see, now you just got my brain going on a different question. Do you think that part of this ability to really truly just absolutely discover and uncover who you are, show up as that person, has a connection to the stage of life that you're at? I have no idea how old you are. You look like you're 35. I mean, I don't have any idea how old you are, but I know you're not 30, right? Like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm
So,
52.
oh
I'm
my
52.
God, that's beyond comprehension to me. I would have thought
Oh,
45, 46, and I'm trying to think about
oh,
how your son's 19. Like, what does that look like? You know what I mean? So the thing is, so now that, knowing that the 40s are a great decade, okay?
yeah,
50s are even a better decade,
yeah,
by the way. And it's not bull crap. Everybody says this crap when they're younger. They're like, oh, that's what old people say. It's like, no, no, no. That's what the truth is, okay?
yes.
So do you think that part of that being willing, I'm going to say the word bold and vulnerable. It's a boldness to be yourself, and it's a willing to be vulnerable to be yourself so publicly. Do you think that has something to do with the decade of your 40s into your 50s, or no, 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 no? That really wasn't part of it.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? So we have a new group of, I was just talking to my best friend, Tracy Smith,
Mm.
about that this morning. Is the interesting part about being 52 is that our clients are getting younger. They're not
Mm-hmm.
getting older. I don't have any boomer clients. My clients are mid 30s now.
Mm.
And I love the relationship between my clients and I, because they're jet setters. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of money hundreds of millions of dollars,
Wow.
private jets, multiple houses. It's just like this incredible life they're living. But they call me Mama Mo, which is hilarious because it's like I'm also give them life. I share life lessons. I'm not just their designer. We're very enmeshed in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
And so I love being this age because I can, I can be, I'm in their nightstands, so,
Mm.
we are so real with each other. And I have a different sort of relationship with them. And the interesting part is, like, for me, like, the year over year has been, how do I increase revenue without increasing my business, actually?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so, I love these tight relationships that I have with my clients because it allows me to just go in deep, which I think is my gift as an introvert.
Mm.
Is just, going in deep. And so I love being 52. You're almost become like a maternal role to some
Mm-hmm.
of these
Yep.
millennials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't complain about my millennials. I love my millennials. But again, giving my clients the credit they deserve. They are awesome people,
Mm-hmm.
and we come together as equals. And so I think that's probably what age does.
Mm.
Otherwise, maybe I'd be intimidated. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah, that could be true. That's a good observation there. And it's funny because you said something in there that reminds me of another very critical aspect of the way you've intentionally created your business. You said, "How do I increase my revenue without scaling the business?" Because I know for you, we've talked in the past how you're like, "Lou, I don't want 15 employees. I don't
Yep.
want a whole staff." You're a solo
Mm-mm.
at this point, still am. And I mean, do you have even an assistant or anything, or are you doing everything, Rach?
I mean, I have. How could I do everything? You
Right?
see the scale of projects. Now, I have people that I don't have a staff. I don't want a staff. And because also my creativity doesn't flow. I could never have an office staff because I'm like, I don't work in those hours,
Yes.
And so for me, it's working with consultants, and I do have people that help me personally and in my business. But a lot of times we go in per project,
Yes.
like, hey, pulling in the A team, let's go. I got a big one, and I have, even other designers like Peg
Mm.
Kushner.
Yeah.
She helps me. I had a huge project over quarantine. She's an incredible sourcer, and I'd create my concept boards, and I just sent over my concept boards. I'm like, find me the stuff,
Wow.
and so, I work with people in different ways like that. But, because I'm mostly solo, I like it that way. I don't
Mm.
want to build a big business.
Well, and that's such a great tip as well because, so many times we talk about on the show, like, how are you going to make your business bigger? Like, not everybody wants their business to be bigger. You know what I
No,
mean?
I
It's so
don't.
true. We have exciting windows. We have businesses that do, $500,000 a year gross revenue and even lower, all the way to upwards of 12 million. And we are consistently making sure that we are presenting topics and having conversations that support not just the person who has a 5 million and wants a 12 million, but the person who has a 500,000 and wants a 500,000, or the person who wants a 500, so for you wanted to figure out how to earn more revenue, but not increase the staff. And so one of the great ways that you do that is when you have the opportunity for a bigger project and it's going to take more hands, you are slicing and dicing the needs for the other hands on a per project basis.
Per project. So
Love
it's
it.
not there all the time.
Yes.
And I mean, I nearly got caught with I guess I did get caught with my pants down during the pandemic, because who would have thought? And so, this is the thing also about visibility. I was positioned for my business to take off, because I don't feel like we should go around saying everybody's business took off. No, everybody's business didn't take off. I've seen some designers going, I'm not busy. I don't get it. My phone's not ringing.
Oh,
not everybody's business took off. And so I feel like we have to be careful about, I don't want to make anybody feel bad I think it's a positioning thing. The awareness wasn't there. The visibility wasn't there. How would people know? The designer down the street was positioned better and ready.
Interesting. What? Great observation again, Rach, because, as an industry, we went bonkers. But your observation is, if the individual designer's business wasn't positioned for visibility, then when the 16,000 more people came into the marketplace to look for a designer, maybe that's why some designers were completely overwhelmed, because they were visible and the opportunities came. And there's 5 designers in the same 25-mile radius that weren't visible and didn't get to share in the love of this one silver lining of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Interesting observation. Yeah, you weren't just busy across the board. You had to be known. It had to be known that you were out there.
Yeah, and before, I have great referral sources here locally, and it was I had great online presence. People would refer me. They'd go all through. I could see them liking my Instagram, and then they would call me. And so I had a great online presence already. I got some projects through Instagram, but they were like a $1,500, e-design or something like that. They weren't like the big projects that have been sustaining my business. What happened in quarantine, though, is I got in project costs, like a $680,000 project through Instagram DMs, another $200,000 project, all through Instagram DMs.
Wow.
2 million was the cost of the project investments for these clients.
Wow.
So, I mean, I was positioned visibility wise, but I was not ready as far as like a staffing.
Right.
So that has been, and you saw me at a very raw moment when you had your live event or your online event.
Live,
I mean, it wasn't that I couldn't handle the business. It was that I was homeschooling a child.
Gosh.
And that was the part right there. I could have handled the business side of it. It was like, how do I do this and homeschool a daughter 6 hours out of the day?
Ugh. There's no way.
That was a crazy time. And so, I think it's all about positioning. And that really just showed me there are, you can get real business from Instagram. Real business.
Well, and I love is that, you have a great following, but it's 10K. It's not like we're talking to somebody who has 580,000 followers, like, the Shays and the Ambers of the world, right? I mean, you're creating this sort of interest and generating this sort of revenue projects from a following of 10,000. That's amazing. And that's what I love. It's like, I think in there, Rach, is that little nudge. It's you're really you. There's just nothing fake about it, and real resonates.
And it's funny because I don't even look at my numbers as far as how many
why do you
followers.
need to when you're getting
I,
business like that, right?
I was just, it was so funny when you said that. I thought I could have done it with 2,000 followers.
Yes.
Because I show up for the people that are there.
Yeah. Well, while you were talking about the numbers you were generating from Instagram, I went and looked it up. Well, because my thought is always, the designer listening. So if we're talking about generating this kind of dollar revenue projects out of Instagram, and I went to look at your Instagram and there was 450,000 followers, I'm like, all right, so somebody's going to look at that and be like, sure, no wonder. But when you see 9,800, that's even more impressive to me, and to your point, you would have done, you could do it out of 2,000 followers because you're really just literally showing up as yourself every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So good. I got to tell you, it's, I just so grateful that we met and that we've stayed friends, and I just love watching. It's funny because in the beginning of the podcast, I don't know if you probably remember when I was interviewing Krista Cooper that first year. She came on a couple of times, and such a smart lady, business brain and all the things. And about a year after, I think it was probably the 1-year birthday party, she texted me and she said, I just love watching your star rise. And I just thought, whoa, that's such a cool thing to hear, somebody say about you. And it's what I think when I look at you, Rach. I just love watching this journey of your star just always rising. And it's just so fun to witness it,
Thank you.
Yeah,
well, I'm going to be around for a while. That's my. I really do. I mean, everything I do is so long game. I do not plan. Maybe in 10 years I'll have a podcast like you. I don't know.
10 years you could take this one over.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I have to say thank you so much for coming back on the show. And I do encourage everybody to listen to the first one if it's curious for you to make the observation of hearing, the future self, even in that episode from 5.5 years ago. So,
and we have to put a disclaimer on that one because the way I found out about that one, I'd forgotten about it, was one of my students for Visibility for Creatives at LuAnn University was like, oh, my husband and I listened to this podcast because I wanted him to know who I was taking this course from. And I blanched. I literally blanched like, you what? You did? Oh my gosh, I have to go listen to this. So I went back and I listened to it, and you and I are talking about Zoom, and you were like, you use Zoom? And I'm like, yeah. So you open it up and you look and you see each other on there, and it was. You would think it was like in, I don't know, 1965 we did that interview. It's hilarious.
Oh, that is so funny. Well, you were the one who taught us about the work jams. That's what you were talking about. Well, and it is funny because, by the way, I was really, really deficient in any technology. I mean, I can remember Kay Whitaker talking about, email sequences. And I'm like, wait, so they just automatically go out? You make them all at once and they automatically go out? And she was like, yes. I'm like, wow.
And I think that is, I introduced you to my Doma.
Yes,
too,
you did.
Because,
you absolutely did.
We were talking about my Doma on there, and it's just so funny. I mean, it was a long time ago, but it wasn't. But it just, so much has happened since then.
We're traveling at the speed of light. That's why we're racing through this universe like maniacs.
You use a thing called Zoom? Jetsons?
Oh my God, that is priceless. I'm going to have to go back and listen.
Oh God.
I don't listen to my first 100. I just can't. I'm just terrified of how inept as an interviewer I was. Oh my goodness.
It's so fun being back here with you, and I'm so glad we reconnected. I really did feel like I had to go off and build my body of work and figure out who I was going to be in the industry. And I feel like I dropped out a little bit because I just needed to put my nose to the grind. And I feel like I'm coming out the other side very confident and knowing where I'm going and who I am. And so I'm happy to be partnering with you, with Lu, and we're going to have fun in High Point.
I know. It's going to be outstanding. I'm so excited. That's right. I forgot. We're going to Power Talk Friday. You're one of my Power Talk Friday people. Completely off the radar in this whole conversation. But yes. And that, Rach, wait till you are part of this day. This is one of the most amazing experiences ever. I totally love it. The transformation, the aha moments, the what you mentioned 2 or 3 times in this episode is it's the ability to connect at a very deep, meaningful level because the group is so small and we are together from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. It's like, buckle on. For introverts like you, I know it's a tough day.
Desi and I are going to be hiding in a corner, sucking our thumbs or something at some point.
I know. I do build the day for me. You know what it is? I want to deliver as much, and it wasn't until the journey of the podcasting, really having the absolute joy of interviewing so many people, is that it didn't ever occur to me before that isn't as exciting for everybody else as it is for me to just keep going for like a billion hours.
You know what, though? It's funny. I step into a different version of me when I'm in High Point because I have to.
Yes.
You have to. Yeah. And so I'm excited. I'll bring it. I'm ready.
Yeah, no, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Every instructor, every expert that has been a part of it, and every attendee. And we've had photographers attend. We've had designers attend. We've had window treatment professionals attend. We've had web developers attend, all in the same class because it is that small that we can get that individual and really, because like you said, the strategies are the strategies, whether you have a window treatment business or you have a design firm or you have a website firm. The strategies for visibility, the strategies for profitability, the strategies for being the CEO in your company are the same. Then what happens is by having the small group, then somebody gets to sit with you and say, okay, I'm a window treatment professional. Look at my Instagram, Rachel. What would you suggest? How do you think, I can do a better job of showing up as myself or blah, 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 whatever it is, right? And so that's what's so fun about it. And I love it. And thank you for bringing that up because I forgot. Oh, my goodness. Well, lady, thank you. I cannot wait to see you in just a few weeks in High Point. It's going to be outstanding. Thanks, Rach.
Thanks for having me back.
I know that many of you are still searching for your niche, your Fred Burns only, the thing that sets you apart from everyone else. Rachel discovered her differentiators by allowing herself to tap into her true personality and by leading with authenticity. Think about it, right? She does this in everything from her marketing decisions to her social media presence to the types of clients she serves. All of these components of her business come together seamlessly, largely in part to her authenticity and the way she presents herself and her business to the world. Now, from the outside looking in, maybe it seems like things came easily to Rachel. I mean, even for me, the very first time I spoke with her on the show, I thought she was actually many more years in her interior design business than she was. But the thing is, when you dig a little deeper, you realize that the reason Rachel's business has been successful, it's because she has made deliberate choices. She talked about them. Choices about mindset, about tapping into your strengths, about sticking to herself no matter what, about reaching out for coaching and other ways to strengthen and deepen her knowledge of herself and how she wanted to present herself to the world, right? And I also want to highlight the revelation that Rachel shared about how she used her background as a tool to shape her success. When she started out, she had the mindset of nobody's going to want to do business with a banker to design their house, right? But she shifted that mindset and she realized that every experience that she had, every strength that she had developed over the years in her other careers played into who and what she was doing now as an interior designer. And she was able to focus on it, call it out, and then use those as more attractors for her ideal client. Right? It can be hard to do that. especially when you come into design as a second career. I've heard some of you say, I don't think I should tell them what I did before, right? But in reality, it's those experiences that inform your niche, your unique value proposition. These experiences are who you are, and you are ultimately selling you when you're selling, right? So, as Rachel pointed out, when you stand in your own light, firm in who you aren't competing with other designers. You are the designer that does only what you can do. I urge you to take the time to reflect on what makes you you. It doesn't have to be the design itself. It can be your personality. It can be your work experience. It can be how you communicate. It is your experiences, the ones that no one else has ever had, because they're you. Right? I hope that you look at Rachel's story and realize that you do have something special to bring to the table. All right? And if you can channel that and show your clients who you are, you'll attract more of the right kind of client, and you'll form better relationships with them, and you'll become well known for doing what you do. That's how you design your business. Okay, so thank you, Rachel, for sharing all of your wisdom today. And right now, I want to remind you that I am hoping to see you at High Point. As Rachel and I discussed, she is one of my Power Talk Friday experts for the Power Talk Friday Tour, October 15th, 2021 in High Point. Go to powertalkfriday.com to learn about this one-day, all-out coaching event designed to give you the most impact to transform your business and your mindset. Spend the day with me and my experts and see for yourself what a game changer this day is. Go to powertalkfriday.com. All righty. Thank you so much for listening. I am just sending you one little nudge out there. Go do this work. Look inside. You've got it in you. I know you do. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.